Hey, Ange.
Hey Les, how are you?
Here we are.
We're here again.
I'm so excited, but I'm always excited,
You
right?
are.
But
That
this
is true.
time it's a little bit different. My
Yes,
excitement level is at a different level.
I get you. I feel it too.
All right.
The
I
vibrations are
have
very
some,
high.
exactly. I'm inspired actually because we have a guest. Oh, this guest ticks off so many boxes. She just fits our brand so perfectly.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to introduce her. She's also not only an honorary bestie, but she's family. And most of our listeners and our guests, of course, they're family because they live in our hearts. But this one, she's really family too. She's family squared. So I'm going to read a little bit about this dynamic lady's bio, and then I'm going to have her introduce herself. So,
Okay, Les, I'm stopping you for just one moment. Could you please
yes.
tell people what this is?
Oh, I got
Mm,
so excited
I know
because they
that.
know
I
when they
know.
see
I know.
you
They
and
do.
when they see me,
They
they're going
do.
to say, guess what? Welcome to another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Thank you for stopping me.
You're welcome.
So, Miss Olesha Haskett is a healer, educator, and published photographer with a Bachelor of Fine Arts and Master's in Business Administration. She's a boss.
Badass all the way.
She has over 10 years of experience as a professional photographer. Her purpose in life is to guide Black women in their journey of self love, beauty, and pleasure. She accomplishes it by sharing her own story of redefining antiquated beauty standards and centering her pleasure. At the
Hmm.
same time, offering a soft space for Black women to define their version of sensuality and sexuality through workshops, retreats, collaborations, and boudoir experiences.
Mm-mm-mm. Love it.
Without further ado, I give you this young lady, Miss Olesha Haskett.
Thank
Hi.
you for having me. Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I appreciate you asking me, and I appreciate saying the time to say yes. So thank you.
Oh, great,
Beautiful.
great, great. So I said a little bit about you from your published website, but I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words, in more of your own words.
Yeah. So I like to call myself the reinvention queen because I reinvent myself a lot. I think I'm probably on my sixth or seventh reinvention now. But my
Yay! Whoop
yes,
whoop. Go for
but
it.
my purpose honestly is to redefine how Black women and those who identify as Black women are able to honor their pleasure, and pleasure being our birthright. That is the foundation of all that I do. And in that space, it allows me to use my chosen medium, which is photography, to do that, to give Black women that space to just show up, and whatever or however they define their pleasure is what I want to offer. And that's on the business side for my personal business. And on the opposite side of that, I do that for other boudoir photographers. So
Mm,
I allow them to have a space to, especially for Black boudoir photographers, we don't always get access to be presenters, to do workshops, to lead in the national conferences. So I give them space to also do that by hosting those things for them, so they are able to teach and they're able to get b-roll footage so they can send
mm.
it off to say, yes, I've taught before. And also we have a global directory of boudoir photographers, so if people are looking for Black boudoir photographers, we vet them so they're able to find someone who looks like them, who honors who they are as a Black woman, and can also do the same thing that I do in a nutshell.
Let me just tell you, like, that was like a whole woosah moment. All of it, all each thing that you said, each kind of benefit, feature, blessing that you mentioned relaxed me more and more.
You started getting into it
I started getting into it.
and picturing yourself.
I'm just saying, because here's the thing. We deserve, Black women deserve to feel completely, like not 98%, like completely free. When we walk out the door, when we walk out of our bedrooms, we start having to deal with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is
The
so
list
important.
and the head
Yes.
begins.
Yes. And so just knowing that you have created this space, and I know that you used to do it yourself, but then you're training other people up. You're like getting it so that more people can enjoy this space. And I got to tell you, you guys listening, if you are in our age group, Leslie and I are in our early 60s, um, even if you're older, I mean younger, but especially people our age and older, when are you going to get free? Like when? Like
Mm.
when is that going to happen for you? Like who are you
Mm-hmm.
waiting for to
Ange,
tell
that's so
you
right. That's so
that it's
right.
time to be free? And I mean free in your body, like your
Yeah.
whole body, like fully owning your body.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, it is time. It is
Yeah.
time. That's all I
You
have to
know,
say for
you
now.
know, I was in conversation with someone just a few days ago, and we saw someone on television, and they mentioned, oh, cleavage is in, and I would never wear that or whatever, like that wouldn't look, I'm too old for that. And oh, do you like that short skirt? And this, and what I've been thinking lately, I want people to wear what makes them feel beautiful.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Or not wear.
Or not.
Exactly.
But first of all, who am I to judge? But do you know how hard life is?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people should present themselves in the way that make them feel beautiful,
Yeah.
and stop thinking about, I'm too old for this,
Mhm.
I'm too fat for this, my legs are too short for this, etc. Because this is what we hear and this is what we grow up with. I'm too
Right.
dark to this. I
Right.
can't wear red lipstick. I can't,
Mhm.
we're so in our heads about external, what other people are thinking about us. And I love the fact that you used the word free and
Free.
freedom.
Hmm.
It's what it is. Like
Yeah.
Olesha, like you gotta tell me, like this is um
It's radical.
Yes.
it's radical. And I know the family that we come from. And I know that each generation, is a little more free than than the one before. But I know my generation, and I'm the on the younger side of the grandchildren of my grandparents. Alicia's mom is on the older side of that, but we're of the same generation. And so I know kind of how we grew up, what the rules were, and you know, one of the things that, because I've been stalking you, right? Yeah, yeah, I have been. I have been. And one of the things that I love about how you show up in the ways that I've seen you show up is this idea of being free, of just um,
Mm.
like, it's not, people think that just because we do things and we have courage, that it's easy.
Hmm.
So can you talk to us about like how that came to be, how you came to be so this became so important to you that you're sharing it, like how did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it happened, I would say, in 20, this is 2023. 2017, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was I would call it the first reinvention.
Uh-huh.
I was 30 at the time. And it feels like a lifetime ago, but I was 30. I was getting a divorce, and it was a massive, like, okay, now what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I supposed to do now? Like, how do
Mm-hmm.
I honor myself? How do I know what I like for myself? Because I
Right.
had been with my ex-husband from 18 to 30. So it really was
Wow.
like, now what? Like, what
Yes,
is this
yes, yes.
version of myself, and how do I honor myself
Right.
within that space? And understanding there really wasn't a lot for Black women in that space to have those conversations, especially if you're thinking about the broader sense of Black women for the Black church and how it is. You go through stages in that Black church. You
Right.
first are God's, then your fathers, then your husbands, and then your children's, and then that's kind of it. That's the litmus test.
Hey, Alicia,
And
can you stop
so,
just one moment, please,
yeah,
while
of
I
course.
pull this out? I just realized my thing wasn't plugged in. Oops. Okay. If you can start back with the Black church, how it is in the Black church. Start
Yes,
with that and then.
yes. No problem. So in the Black church, what happens is we tell women or girls that you belong to God, you belong to your father, then you belong to your husband, and then your children, and then that is the extent of what you are here for, and that is what it is. There is no deviation from that. And if you do
Mhm.
deviate from that, then that is a major problem. And especially for Black women, if it's a major problem for everyone else, then you are the problem. So then
Right,
we have to get you back into the fold.
right.
And
Fix
for me,
you.
it
I
really
have to fix
was,
you.
you have to fix you. Like everything else is
Right.
fine. Um, but for me, it really was like, now what? How are you going to identify with who you want to be as it pertains to your Black womanhood? And
Mm,
so it was, now what does this look like? How do you, what is it? It could be anything. And so I had to really take steps to say, okay, do you want to be this way? Do you want to do this? How does this look for you? How do you feel when you do certain things? And that started that for Boudoir. It really started, okay, I really want to get back into Boudoir again. And then in 2017, it was like, okay, then we're just going to do this full time.
mm,
And so I had to identify with myself, like, what does it feel like to have a boudoir experience, what as a Black woman,
right.
and understanding that a lot of Black women have never owned their bodies,
Mhm.
especially
For
if
sure.
they don't understand how their bodies work and how it's
Right,
supposed to feel.
right.
Other ownership of our bodies is
Yes,
in our DNA,
yes,
unfortunately.
yes, yes.
You know,
You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
was, as you said that, I was kind of, the irony of that is the media portrays us as being overly sexualized.
Yes.
And so this idea of not knowing our bodies and so on, like, yeah, that is so true. Yet
Hmm.
we are portrayed as these ravenous, and we could be if we want to.
Yes.
I'm just saying it's not so. It's not a given. It's not a part of, it's not
Mhm.
culture. Some people are, some people aren't, but it's not
Right.
how we're all wired, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah. So you were
But
doing it
but
before.
moreover, excuse me,
Uh-huh.
moreover, when we want to explore self-pleasuring experiences or acknowledgement of our beauty and our ownership of our bodies, it's very difficult to embrace those experiences. And as
Yeah.
you just said, Alicia, to find spaces that
Hmm.
embrace those experiences, if that's what we choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
definitely getting better, but yes.
So when I listened to one of your, you were a speaker, I forget the event it was, but um, you're serious about educating. Like you
Yes.
are like, and when I say educating, like holding people accountable for their own shit. Like, you know, and in particular, what I'm referring to is um, having people understand what it means to create safe spaces for Black and Brown people, like what that
Yes.
is
Mm.
and what the excuses are and what accountability looks like how even that the being able to really confront people with the fact that there's no excuses, you can do it, let's get to it. That is another level of courage, because you can create this
Mhm.
for yourself, or you can
Hmm.
create this for as a as a Black woman yourself, but then to create a learning tool
Right.
where
And
people who are not,
evangelize in that
yeah,
way.
like that's next,
You
that's
know,
like
that's
next
like your
level,
ministry.
right?
Thank you. Yes.
That's
Yes, it
next
is.
level. Like, tell us about the first time you did that. Like, I know you got your slides together and all of that, but then when you
Yes.
actually had to do it, like, what was that like?
It was, I was an educator before, so it really wasn't, it was just stepping into a new role of
Mm,
educating adults, which can be honestly like educating children because we
right.
have the same attention spans. So it really is the same to me. Um, but it was at a different level because now I am educating my peers. And
Mm,
so it was also um, trying to process, what can I say? And if I say this, will it offend people? And
mm,
how do I feel? Like, I'm not really worried about their feelings. I'm worried
mm,
about my feelings. Like,
yeah.
how will it feel if someone comes up to me and says, you said this and it really made me feel some type of way? And
Mm-hmm,
I'm very honest about how I don't really care. Like, I
right.
had a question that came up at a program that I did, but I was talking about consent with couples boudoir. But after the question was, how do you feel if someone sends you messages or says something about, how you are very clear on your work is to help Black women
Mm-hmm,
and only Black women, and
yeah.
how do you feel about that? And I don't care. I
Mm-hmm,
really don't care.
yeah.
And sometimes that can be off-putting to people,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but the way I process this is when we talk about especially race, we always talk about it in the way where we're not trying to make white people feel uncomfortable
right.
or others feel uncomfortable because
Mm-hmm.
anti-blackness is big in across the world. And
Yes,
I
for
feel
sure.
like if I have to think about the things that I'm saying for you to feel comfortable, then I'm
Mm-hmm,
not being authentic to the story that
Right.
I
yeah.
know
They're
that
being
is
Right.
within
centered.
me
Right.
and the
Yeah,
things
Right.
I've gone through. And
right.
even if you are a person of color, you've most likely gone through some type of racism or discrimination
Mm-hmm,
yourself,
mm-hmm.
but you can still be anti-black.
Oh, yeah.
So you still have to
Well,
acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm,
hmm
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. This kind of who's in the center. If I
Yes.
should put my pain second to how you feel about my pain,
Yes.
really? Does really?
Hmm.
But then that also would then go against your mission. If
Yes.
you're dedicated to self-expression, you have to bring your authentic self to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of us as women in general, we're taught to be concerned about other people's feelings and something
Mm-hmm.
very often to our own detriment.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But there comes a time, and what's really striking me, Olesha, I gotta tell you, you have seemed to have found your voice at such a young age.
I don't
You're
feel young, but yeah.
you're well, because you've had a multitude of experiences,
Yes.
probably,
Right. Right.
but you are expressing something that usually comes later in the fifth decade of life or
Hmm.
earlier after you've had a lot more life experiences to say, wait, I don't think I like this so much. I think I like this a little bit better.
Right.
It's like wisdom beyond your years,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Definitely.
you
Definitely.
know?
Yeah.
Yes. I
And
have an
that
old
wisdom in
soul.
action, that wisdom in
Yeah.
action is the part of it that I think makes the difference. It's like you're having these experiences and seeing how you can serve others through it, and then not just keeping it as an idea,
Yes.
but making it real. Because as an entrepreneur, I know that that's a whole nother, whew, I know that's a whole nother level of finding another area of strength, um, to actually do the work, not just want to do the
Hmm.
work, but to actually do the work. And
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm dying to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like set me up. Take me from the beginning. Like how do you like what yeah, so I come, I
Okay.
knock on your door
Yes.
and
All
I
right. All
say
right. All right. We'll go through that. But I have so many other questions
I
too.
know.
So go ahead.
I wanted to make sure we got this in. Like how
Yes.
do you is there some pre-work? Is there some like do we have to meditate to get relaxed?
Yeah.
Do I have to sip some wine? Like what?
Is there any like lotion or Vaseline involved?
Yes.
Vaseline.
Vaseline.
Because I
That's the
do
Yes,
good
have
yeah.
some
stuff.
ashy spots.
Yes. Yes. Especially now in the winter. Yes.
So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
Yes.
let's blame
how
it on the winter.
take us through the
If we
process
would
then.
like to hire you to schedule a boudoir session.
Okay.
Yes.
Or maybe
So
we'll go
I
to one of your retreats.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what
I
I
was going
want
to
to do.
say actually, I actually just closed my studio in August because I was traveling. I'm doing more traveling, like from August to I'm sorry, from October until now. I've been traveling, so
Wow.
and this is my really just lay low season right now.
Okay, good. And we
But
got you.
when the way it starts is we start with a consultation. So
Mhm.
exactly what we're doing here, we do a Zoom consultation because I really want to know who you are as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And so I will just ask you about yourself. Like,
Mhm.
why now? Why is it important for you to do this now at this time in your life? And
Mhm.
so just getting to know who you are as a person, because that is totally important to me
Right.
because it's
Right.
not for everybody,
Yes.
especially if the reason why you were doing it just doesn't match with what you're saying and what you
Mhm.
said when you filled out the form. Then we need to
Mhm.
really
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation about what is it that you're trying to get from the session itself,
Okay.
because it is different. It's different for Black women than it is for anyone else. And I
Mhm.
found that
Mhm.
Wow.
when I was shooting everybody else, it is very, very different for us.
So
And so,
tell
and
me just insert
yeah.
there like in what ways is it unique to us and
So
is it
one
good?
of the biggest things that I find, especially with Black women, is the reasons why we want to do a session are to feel softer, to feel more feminine. Whereas when
Mm.
I was dealing with, let's say, my
Oh,
your white counterparts, it was I want to feel fierce, I want to feel powerful. So it was a lot. It was a vast
ooh, it's
difference
almost the
between
opposite.
Wow.
yes, the
Wow, it's
opposite.
almost
It's
the
like
opposite.
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
and
Wow.
especially depending on the age of the person as well, that does play a factor in why they want to do it. Because a lot of my clients are older, so
Okay.
it's like I'm at a
Oh,
change of life. Maybe I'm an empty nester. I'm recently divorced, or I just feel like I've lost myself. So I want to connect back with myself, and this is a way that I can do this, and it's literally just about me.
I
Right.
So
get that.
that
I
question,
get
yeah,
that. We're
that's
so
usually the
used
reason
to
why.
serving others.
Yes,
We're
yes,
so used to serving others. We look in the mirror, and when we look at ourselves, and it's like, when are we going to service us?
Yeah.
yes,
And what a great way of kickstarting self-service.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I'm
It's
writing that
exactly what it
down.
is. Exactly what it is.
Okay, so
So
you do
from
the
there,
consult, yeah.
Yeah.
we do
Hmm.
we do that over Zoom. I'm gonna ask a couple of questions, and then it's a whole process. Like you get a few different emails, and so once that is taken care of, I still send you information. So I have one client named Tracy who I adore, and so I send you a video of just her process and what
Mm.
she decided to say, what she decided to do. So you'll see how that looks after. So before, during, and then after, and the emotions that she went through,
Mm.
even up to seeing her products. So that
Wow.
also comes in an email. And then once the fee is paid and all those things are done, then you receive another set of emails. So one is like, here's your Pinterest board. It's a secret board. Put everything and anything that you want for your session because each person is different. So I actually know if you have certain lingerie you love,
Mm.
lighting, if there's a
Mhm.
mood that you're going for, then
Okay.
put all of those things in that, makeup especially, hair especially, put it all in that. So when your day comes, we can go through that and see. Because a lot of times people are nervous.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
they say one thing and then they're like, wait, but that's not what I wanted this. But a lot of times it's like, I don't know if I can get this. And I'm
Right.
like, you
Right.
can get what you want. As
Yes.
long as
Yeah.
it's within our, as long as we can get it, you can get
Yes.
it. I'm fine with that.
Right.
So from there, Then what happens is you also get a client guide, and that client guide takes you through exactly what happens like 2 weeks before, 10 days, 7 days, up until the day of. So you have a litany of things. And then that also pertains to what happens, what you should do with your hair, what you should do with your makeup. When you come in, should your face be bare? Like, do you have moisturizer on? And all those things. Like, should you get a wax if you decide to get a wax? Should you get your how should you get your nails done, and when should you get your nails done?
Right.
Especially for hair for Black women. Like if you're going to get a weave, like we need to know that. I need to understand like what you want to look like before. And then you also get a lingerie guide. So the lingerie guide takes you through like,
this is
yeah, it's a process. It's a process.
That's why when you get there, you're good because
you're good because everything is already taken care of.
Damn.
Yes.
Okay, keep going. Wow,
yes.
This is great.
So the lingerie guide, it takes you through like for your body. Like say if you have broad shoulders, these are the looks that you are going for. And it gives you images of what this looks like. And then it takes you through that information. And if you want to set up a call to say, you know, I'm still a little nervous, can you show me what you have in this size? Then 2 to 3 days before, COVID questionnaire comes out. And then another questionnaire comes out just to say, you know, how do you want your hair? So I get it in written form. How do you want your makeup? Again, in written form. Do you have any mobility challenges that I need to know about? So I know not to ask you to do certain things. Is there certain music that you love? What are your favorite scents? What for one question I actually do ask is like, tell me about, I think it's your favorite day that you've had, or what is that like for you? Because I need to know. So as we are moving, as we're progressing, I'm questioning, I'm asking questions. We're having an interview pretty much. And then if you have a weave, so I always do this, if you have a wig, not a weave, but a wig, like you understand that I'm not going to fix that if it looks crazy. Right. So I need you to also like check this box off, like, okay,
that you know
that's not going to happen. And if it does, this is
can't
the
work
fee
with a
for
crazy
that
wig. But my cousin is a wig designer, and she can come in and hook you up.
You got to know that. So, because sometimes people, one thing that happens, especially with Black women, which is to our detriment, is we feel that our natural hair is not good enough for like special occasions.
Right.
And so that comes into play a lot. Like, yeah, if you're not a person that usually gets like a weave or a bust down, whatever, like you shouldn't get that for this because it's not, this is something that you have as a legacy piece. So you shouldn't get something that doesn't reflect who you are. So I always say that, like if they say, well, you know, I was thinking, I say, do you do that often? Is this something that in your everyday normal life you would do that? And if it's not, then I would say I would not suggest it. Now you can because it's your prerogative, but I would suggest that you not do that. And so that also comes into play. And then the day of, when I did have my studio, the way it works is the day of, you would come in, wear something loose, and then we have, I had a space where you could come in and get your hair, your makeup done.
Wow,
and then
certainly.
Yeah, we don't start shooting right away. My biggest thing is you seeing yourself. That's first thing. But then also giving you space to take a breather. And then from there, we start with light stretching because a lot of people do not stretch. And I'm like, you're going to be moving in ways that, you know, your body, you probably haven't moved like this in a long time. So we do stretching, breathing techniques. And this happens if it was in my space or not, to just get you into your body. And then from there, we start to shoot.
How do you prepare yourself for the emotional toll that this takes on one of the participants? I'm just going through picturing what you're speaking about, and I'm feeling emotional at several of the points.
Yes.
Does that ever surprise you, or how do you handle that? You have an MBA, so you're a business boss. You're a technical fine arts degree, but are you also a psychologist?
Sometimes I feel it does come up, especially when we do the initial intake, because a lot of women want to tell their story. And so I have one of those faces, as I like to say. So it just doesn't happen there. Like if I'm out, it happens sometimes too. And it's I give them the space to and the freedom to have the conversation where I am just listening. I'm an active listener.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you that space. And I always say, anytime I'm doing anything, even if it's like a branding session, I always say, this is your time, this is your space. So if you are not feeling comfortable or if you need a moment, you can have that moment. Because I still only to this day only shoot one person a day. And so giving them the space to say, if you need to step back, if you are feeling overwhelmed, then it
Sure.
is perfectly fine to say, I need to take a break. Like
Right.
that, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say, okay,
Yeah.
do you need water? What, like, do you want me to talk to you? Do you want to
Yeah.
put a different
Yeah.
music on?
Yeah.
Um, how is it that you want to show up in this moment? And I give them that
Right.
space to do so. Yeah.
Like
Because you
it's
want
so
them to
much
show up in their
more.
best selves.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
what I'm hearing is that it's so much more than the end result. It's so much more
Oh,
than
yes.
the pictures. And so many people,
Mhm.
when they think about anything, their focus is on the end,
Yes.
right? This or the tangible things and not
Yes.
what happens in the journey of, you know what I mean? Which that there's so much sweetness in that space that kind of gets, tossed to the side because the emphasis is on that final thing. I mean, the final
Yes.
thing is the final thing, but there's a whole nother set of experiences that you miss out on if that is your only focus. And that taking them through that process, there's no wonder, I'll say again, that when people are actually there, much of the angst that one would feel and, oh, I'm going to get, you've already dealt with, they've already
Yes.
dealt with.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
not
very
just
kind of you.
that. And but then the final product becomes not just the final product,
Hmm.
but a recollection of the experience,
Yes,
of the freeing experience that they've
Yes.
gone through. So,
exactly.
oh
Yes.
man.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. Oh
That's
my
important
gosh.
to, especially with Black women, because we deal with so many things on any given day,
Yeah, yeah.
outside of microaggressions,
Right,
we
right.
deal with a lot. And
Mm,
so my thing is, I don't want you to have to worry about anything. So even
mm,
now that I do not have like a physical studio, I still have
mm,
access to a studio. And even in that space, I'm like, I don't want you to have to worry about anything. I really just want you to show up. And
mm.
that is still the end result. Like I
Right,
want you
right.
just to show up. And however you show up is good enough. It
Mm,
is enough.
Mm,
You don't
mm,
need anything else. You don't
mm,
need to be anybody else. I just need you to show up as yourself. And then
mm.
from there, we can do the work for you to embody what this experience is for you.
Right, right. And then your camera does all of the magic. Your camera in your eye, yes.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, go. Go, Les.
some of your work, you've made a connection between self-care and anti-racial oppression.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit? I thought it was just fascinating that you made that
So
link.
yes. So I tell people like self-care is this big thing, especially for us, like self-care, self-care. And I always say you cannot self-care your way out of systematic oppression. Like there is no way that you can
Mm.
self-care your way out of that. Like
I need
it
to
just
write
ain't
that down.
happening. It's not happening.
I'm writing that down. You
We need to
cannot
hashtag that.
self-care yourself out of systematic
You
oppression.
can't. It's just
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
systems that have been put in place. Um, by the world just are not going to allow you to do that. Not even just as Black women, but just as people in general. If you don't have the wealth to do certain things, like that's just what it is.
Right.
And so the way I think about self care is radical self care. And what that means is care of each other. So I think about it like when, for instance, with grief is not a something that should be done as on an individual basis. Like
Right.
shared grief is how we should be able to navigate the world. Like especially now, what we're seeing with genocide in like Congo and Gaza. Like, this is a shared grief moment. This is a shared moment where everyone is having a moment of like rage against the machine and trying to navigate this space. And so I think about that in the same way for us. We have to practice radical self-care and saying, if I am not well, then my community is not well, and I need to do something. I have to do something to try to rectify that. And what does that look like? If it's being a listener, if it's just showing up, not saying anything, but just being there, if it's, providing childcare without having to pay for it, if it's providing a meal, if it's just standing in place because someone is not able to, like all of those things that don't cost anything, or if they do cost something, then it's still a way for me to show up for the people in my life and the people outside of that, because we definitely are all connected. We can see that now.
Absolutely.
Like, we're all connected.
There are these little ways that can be so, I call these types of things significant smalls. These little things that we can do in service of each other that just means so much. It doesn't require money or all this time or going places. It could be just right in front of you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It just requires that your heart space is in the right place.
Yes, definitely.
And what a great segue. I don't want to get to this before we run out of time.
Excuse me.
You got to tell us about I got to say it right, but I haven't taken French since the 5th grade. Coterie Noir.
Yes.
Did I say
so?
Right? All right,
I say the Coterie Noir, but you might be right.
Oh, come on
somebody
now.
might be French.
We can do better than that. Coterie Noir.
So that actually...
what is that, and what a need did it address?
So in 2019, I was a part of one of the largest boudoir photography groups. They were almost 10,000 boudoir photographers within this space on Facebook. And it was run by a Canadian couple. And I recognized that there were no people of color, just no people of color, or who I saw who identified as people of color in the education space. And it was a significant, like, what is this? This doesn't even make any sense. And so I reached out to some of the Black photographers that I knew of. We actually have a group chat that's been going on for like almost 5 years now. It's 7 of us, I think, all Black women who do boudoir. And so it was, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand. So I started with a Instagram page, and that Instagram page was Boudoir for Black Women. And so it started with just, I want to show Black women who are doing boudoir. That was it. So it started as like, okay, this is just going to be something that, I ask people for images who are Black boudoir photographers and just post them so people can get inspiration. And that's what it was. It wasn't supposed to be anything larger than that. It really was just, I want to show that we are here, we exist, and you can get pictures done by us, for us, from people who represent us. That was it. And then it moved into a Facebook space because people were saying, I really want a community, because there are certain things within our boudoir space that you just don't understand unless you are a Black person. So we moved into Facebook and created a Facebook group that was just for us. And then from there, it moved now into, okay, we're going to do a workshop. And then we did another workshop. And then we did a retreat in Costa Rica. And it moved into a website. And then we rebranded and changed the name to what it is now. And then it moved into going off of social media and building a membership site. And now it moved into, this is in February, I think it was in February, which is where the membership site came in. And then in September, it was now a certification. So that certification is making sure that those who don't look like us, and even those who do look like us, because misogynoir is very real for Black women, to give them the tools that they need in order to understand how to capture Black women. So from Black feminism to hair and makeup, ethical considerations for retouching, because that's a big deal. What does allyship look like? If you are a true ally, because within our boudoir spaces, there are a lot of people who will say they are allies, but they don't show up. They will speak, but they won't really put the action behind their words. So giving them that space to say, this is what this looks like. And this is an example of what this looks like from Project Runway. Like, this is what this looks like when you say one thing, but then your actions speak differently to who you are as a person.
Sure.
Right.
So all of that is
In
where we
other
are
words, we
now.
see you, we're watching you.
Yeah, we're watching. I tell them that
Yeah,
all the
we're
time.
watching
Like,
you.
what is this? Like, this is really
Well,
I have said
it's
that in groups. I'm like, this what is how are you showing up when you're saying Black Lives Matter, but your actions speak to totally
yeah,
something different? And I
yeah.
say it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Oh
matters. It
man.
just doesn't stop you, maybe. It's like
No,
she's like, no, it just
Before we
I
run out
don't.
of time, there's one more topic I gotta ask you about because
I
Yes.
this
only
has
have
been
one
on my
too.
heart. Listen, we've been talking.
I have a question too, but you go first.
You embrace rest
Yes.
and rest as an expression of self-love. And okay, this is your girl right here. This is your girl right here because your cousin here, Olesha, has for as long as I've known her, and me too. Type A. We got to get it done. We don't need to
Hmm.
rest. We can do
Yes.
whatever. We don't need to rest. I would say about a year ago, Ange started saying, I need to get a certain amount of sleep in order to perform at my best.
Yes.
And she would actually stop and say, I'm getting 7 hours, 8 hours. I got to get my sleep. Even if it meant getting to bed at 3 in the morning, I couldn't
Hmm.
reach her before 11.
Hmm. Yep.
And it was radical for her. You're slipping a little bit, Ange. But talk to me, talk to me about self-love and rest. I mean, it's like I have a boatload of things to do. I don't rest until the last tick is done. Tell me, what am I missing?
Rest is something, especially since we live in a very capitalistic society where we are taught that you have to earn rest.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we have to flip that. Like, you do not have to earn rest. It's like you don't have to earn love. Like, it just is there for you to take it when you need
Oh,
it. Like, that's what it was for. That's
I
what
gotta
it's
write it
supposed to be
down.
for.
You
We're going
don't
to have a
need to
string of
earn
hashtags.
rest.
No, you don't. You do not. You
I've thought that
truthfully
all
do
my
not.
life.
No, you don't. And that's why I say the same thing with like earning love. You do not have to earn what is there to give freely.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I always say, because I still have, I love the work that I do. So sometimes it is very hard for me to rest because I have a lot of ideas. Like, my brain is always working.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I have done is I've said, okay, what does active rest looks like for me personally? And so it is spending time with my family. It is getting off of social media, which is still hard for me. I'm working on that one. It is reading. Like, I'm an avid reader. And it is doing all of those things where I don't have to put a time on it and just say, I'm just going to do it. So for me, it's focus mode on my phone. So on Sunday, usually on Sunday, I'm not working. So all my social media, everything that is attached to others is off. From my Instagrams, all of these accounts, my notifications are off. I don't see anything unless I'm in the app, physically in the app, or if I'm on that page. If I'm not, then I
Oh,
have no
that's
idea. So I
wonderful.
always tell people to email me because I will not see when you
What
send
a
me a DM.
gift. What a gift you're
I
giving
just won't.
yourself.
Yes.
What a
So
gift.
that's one thing that we struggle with as Black women. I
Sure,
think it's Black
sure.
people for sure, but as Black women, we
We got
definitely
to do it
struggle with
all. We
that.
got to catch up. We got to,
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've recently become acquainted in the last year or so with the NAP ministry
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and Trisha Hersey's work.
Yep.
She has a book out that's getting a lot of press right now. Rest, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our bodies.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean, there's so many ailments that are related to rest. Rest is the time when our brains, they're now saying that dementia, there's a component of a lack of sleep tied to dementia. And I believe that that is what happened with my mother, because any of the other things that they said was related to, she just did not fit in those categories, keeping your brain active. And I mean, my mother was
physically fit and
just
all. She, yeah.
Hmm.
ridiculously, just consuming new information all the time. But she was so driven. She did not
Hmm.
sleep very much. And so that became a part of what I um, was really important for me. And I do it for myself, but I also do it for my loved ones, that I want to do what I can, to your brain needs to replenish. It needs to kind of
Hmm.
slough off all the stuff that it does, and it does that during sleep. So that's a thing. Okay,
And
so my
as a
question
physician,
is,
I understand like the physiology of it and the
yeah, yeah,
anatomy of it and what happens during the resting phase of
yeah,
cells and
yeah.
DNA and things like that. But then also as a physician, I understand what being on call for 24 hours is. So I'm
Like
used to
yesterday,
my body
like
being dead
yesterday,
tired, bone tired. Yeah.
like
Being
yesterday.
tired. And it's like, okay, I can push through. I can do this. I can do
Yeah,
this. But we
yeah.
got to meet somewhere in the middle because we can do
Hmm.
better. We can do better. Just like we
Yes.
schedule stuff for other people, we can schedule rest for ourselves. Like Ange, you're
Yes.
like, I'm I can't meet you at 10:30. I gotta meet you at 10:15 because I gotta get my rest. I was a little offended,
I know.
but I got it. But I got it. And
She
in the
was like,
last few
What do
minutes,
you mean it can't? It's, look, I know us.
yeah, I
Um,
was up late. Yep, you said it.
So, what I want to hear about are your retreats. I want to hear about
Yes.
when the next one is. I want to hear about like how frequently you do them, all that stuff in as much detail as you can,
So
please.
we can
Yes.
go.
Didn't want
So
to say
my
that, but yes.
yes, my next retreat actually is going to be June 13th through the 18th of 2024.
Okay.
Um, I'm excited about this one because this is I want you to come. I think it's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be
Imagine.
amazing because I have two phenomenal. I am actually not teaching on this one. I've been teaching, so I'm taking a break, but I will be shooting.
Okay.
So we have one person who's coming in, Camilla Davis, and Camilla Davis is the reason why I got into the space of pleasure being my birthright, because she was
Mm.
the first person that I ever heard say that,
Writing
especially as
that
a Black
down.
woman. Yes, as a Black woman, I
Pleasure
was like,
is my
oh, okay,
birthright.
this is different. Like this is different. And
Right,
so
right.
she is coming to really get into the space of how do you embody sensuality, your version of it, because it's different for every person. So she was the first person who really made me think about what does that feel like? What does that look like if
Mhm,
I am tapping into that sensual side of myself and
mhm,
honoring that version of myself. So she actually is doing the workshop that is just for that. Like, this is what this looks like when you do this and
mhm,
why it's important, especially for Black women. So
mhm,
she is talking about that. The other person, her name is Coco Alexa. And Coco Alexa, I've worked with her since 2017, 2018. And she made me really process, like, really, what are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with your business? How are you getting to this space? And what does that look like? So she told me before that I needed to quit my job, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And she said, you're not, if you don't do this, all of the things that you have been working for are not going to happen because you
Mm.
continuously push back, and your people, your ancestors, your spirit, everybody is saying we can't give you these things until you do this
You
work,
let go.
until you
Yeah.
quit.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
immediately when I did that, I started to get all of these offers to speak, to do these things, to do even 2 years ago, right when COVID hit, she said, you need to rest. She told me, she was like, you need to rest because in 2023, you are going to be traveling like you've never traveled before. And
Wow.
I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds me. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
And that was 2 years ago, and it happened. Like I since January started, I've been to 5, 6 different countries just within the last few months. And
Wow.
so I was saying to him, like, I really am glad I rested, because the amount of distress on my body, that if I had continuously worked like I was working,
Yeah.
I would not have been, it would have been crazy. And so, and the different time zones and things. So
Mm-hmm.
she really was the person who said, these are the things you have to do. Like, before I make any large business decisions, I go to her first and say, this is
Mm.
what I'm thinking about. Or even she will tell me, like, this is what is happening. This is what you need to
Wow,
focus
that's
on. This is what is
wonderful.
happening.
It's a
And
great
so,
mentor to have.
yes, so she is coming, and she's doing her workshop, and then she's doing individual sessions for each person.
Mhm.
This
And
is in
so
June. And we'll
this is in
post a
June.
link. We'll post
I
a link
appreciate
to
that.
that. Sure, for
Absolutely.
sure.
So
And
We
then
have to
we'll
think
post
about that.
pictures of us at the
yes.
workshop. Me and my boudoir pose on my velvet chaise lounge.
Yes. Well, we're going to be in a pool. So
Oh,
we
okay.
actually have a private villa, because I want to get there and just relax. So we actually have
Okay.
a private villa. We have it's all inclusive. So all of your meals will be included. 2 excursions as
Where is
well.
this?
This is in Cartagena, Colombia. So we are going to Colombia. Yes.
Okay. Listen,
Colombia.
this is going to
Ay,
be.
mommy.
She's not well. She's really not well. All right, Les.
Vaya conmigo. Wow. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh. I
gosh.
think we're out of time.
This is amazing.
Oh, it
I
is.
I yeah. We listen. Um, for those of you who want to hear more, we are going to continue a little longer in Patreon. So we're going to bring this episode to a close. If you want more, join us on Patreon. You can become a subscriber. You go to Patreon and what is it? Bestie Quad Squad. You will find us under Bestie Quad Squad, and you can become a subscriber. We hope you do. Until then, Leslie, take us out.
This has been another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.